Still do 7 NUFC Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications option. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe. And it feels alright where the worlds collide. Manipulation stands to make us break. What time you said is coming over you. You're wishing upon a star. You're wishing it on a star. You are, you are, you are. You fight back, it's an all-out attack. It feels like I've been taken on the world's machine. Because I want it more than anyone can dream. You look back and it's all in the past. You tell me how you live by all the things you do. Well, you can be yourself, but maybe I'm not you. And it feels alright when they come and say to you,
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters. It is the three Amigos, gate crashed by the professional. It is cup final weekend, and we are all very excited. And I dare say there'll be a few drinks had this weekend, win or lose. I certainly started early. I started last night, but I'm pleased to say I'm not on the red wine tonight, so you will get a sober show from me and a variety of questions asked rather than just one on a loop. Good evening to Stu, to Mitch, and to George. How are you, lads?
Very good, lad.
Buzzing.
Great stuff. Excellent. Steve Hasty should be joining us. He's busy on a job at the minute, but hopefully he will be joining us. Joe will be joining us around about 6 o'clock as well.
You think he's robbing a bloody bank?
So, how we're feeling. Let's go to George first. George is sitting alone in his house, and George, this is great, isn't it? It's another cup final. You know, we've talked a little bit this week already about, you know, the fact that you were around in, you know, the 50s. You saw 51, 52, 55. You saw 69. I asked you on Ask George what's it actually like to win something, because you've been there and done it. And seen it and had the feeling. But what are you feeling like now? A couple of days to go.
I'm buzzing, is what I said just as we started, and I am. It's so exciting, just as exciting as any other times. But I'm reminded as well that I'm supporting Newcastle United, and anybody who thinks it was any different in the 50s, even when we're winning, is mistaken. In 51, it was the old Wembley, 100,000 tickets, and how many tickets did the clubs get? 12,500 each. Do you imagine if we'd only got 12,500 for this match? There'd have been a riot. It was bad enough as it was. So, you know, things don't change, and we're bemoaning the injuries and things like that. Well, leading up to the 51 final, there was all sorts of things, even talk of a strike, would you believe? half you going to the management and talking about a strike because of what the players are going to be paid. 12 quid for appearing at Wembley, that's what they were going to get. The bandsmen in the Coldstream Guards are getting 25 quid a head. So so it's Newcastle United, it's got to be different. But one thing it's not different is the buzz, is the sense of occasion, the adrenaline rush, and seriously, I've got it. If you can't see it, it's there, and it's reminding us of the big things it meant to anybody connected with the club. Then I was actually at the club in '55 as a 14-year-old schoolboy, and actually going training then, and even down to my level where there was another 100 of people like me. We could all feel the buzz that we're getting out of the fact that they'd won the cup. It was just so special. And it was special in the region. I think people get sick of us saying it, but the shipyard managers said that, for the next 2 months, production in the shipyard was 20% higher than it had been normally, simply because of the rush that came out of winning the cup and going into the cup and the cup run and all that sort of thing. So it's no different. I've got to confess to you, all I feel is hyped up today as I was in the 50s when I was involved in the 50s. Remember in 51, I was a 9-year-old, and I didn't actually. My father went to the cup final. Of course, he went to all three, and then going back to tickets. You've heard us say this before. He got his ticket from Buckingham Palace. A contact he had in Buckingham Palace. And the irony was, while people in the Tyneside were scrambling around for tickets, his contact in Buckingham Palace was saying to him, "How many do you want, Harry?" he could hardly afford one. It was a month's bloody wages. The whole household was hard up because they'd given Harry the money for the ticket. He couldn't go on the bus or the train. He hitchhiked all the way there and all the way back. And as he left the Parsons Marine in the afternoon to go to the match, his manager was shouting up the yard, "You'll not have a job on Monday, Harry. That's you done. When you come back on Monday, you'll not have a job." He still went to the bloody match, though. So, when you're born into that sort of feeling, it doesn't go away. And as I say, I'm as buzzing now at 2025 as I was in 1951, 52 and 55. So bring it on is what I say. And I just hope that they don't freeze like they did last time. And I'm glad they did what they did at West Ham on Monday night. They got lots of energy, negative things out of their systems on Monday night, and they should be up for it. And if they're not, then they're not 2-1. But and add to that the news, the England selection this weekend. There's been some surprises, but not. Let's forget, if young Hall had been fit, he'd have been in. That would have been 4 Newcastle players in that squad. Fantastic. It shows where we're going. So I'll shut up because we want to move on. But buzzing is the word I would use, Steve. I'm absolutely hyper.
Great stuff. Steve, I'll come to you. Welcome. How are you feeling? How are you feeling, mate? How excited are you on a scale of 1 to 10?
I'm pretty calm at the moment, I must admit, because I think it's been one of those weeks. I think still getting over the euphoria of watching Liverpool fail miserably in midweek, and the performance that we put in on Monday, which did have me a little bit nervous, I must admit, at times. So managed to keep your feet on the ground because I think that's the best way to be. But I think as we get closer to the match, certainly from Saturday afternoon until we kick off on Sunday, I think the adrenaline will start to pick up, Steve.
Yeah. Mitch and Stu already in pre-match training mode there. Lads.
No substitute.
Good to see you both together. Stu, first of all, what's your feelings? Are you excited about the game at the weekend? And Liverpool's exit from the Champions League, I guess, has Trent getting injured. I think there's it's probably given us a bit of positivity going into the game, and the fact that we got a 3-3 draw, should have won 4-3 against them earlier in the season. We know on our day we can match Liverpool.
It has to be on the day, but we've needed some good news as well. And you're getting various WhatsApp groups and things like that, and there's people that just want to be negative and they're thriving it, as we've said. I'm off a different ilk. I like to see the most positive outcomes for the team. And for us to win a final, you've got to be in the final, and we're in it. So then it comes down to 90 minutes. And we've all said it before, on our day, we can beat anyone. And I'm just praying Sunday's our day. And I really hope it is. If I'm slurring, it's not the Jaeger bombs, it's just the lack of sleep. I've had about 4 hours sleep in the last 2 days, all the travelling. So we'll carry on, and we're out tonight anyway.
Aye.
So I'll sleep tonight.
Neil?
All adds to the buzz, you know. I mean, we're arranging to meet people we've not seen in ages over the next couple of days. And I think our Joss is down the night as well, so I've not seen Joss in ages, in far too long. And so, you know, the loads of extra reasons to have that little bit of buzz. It's not just about the game, it's about we're bringing the community back together. And it's that club city community trisomy that makes Newcastle United so special for me. You know, as along with Mr. Hasty as two of the founders of the Supporters Trust. Why did we get involved in that in the first place? That's why. It's why we bother. It's why we still bother to this day. That if we get a message off someone who needs a bit of help with something, we'll always reach out and try and do what we can. And we're going to see a lot of that this weekend, I think. We've got people descending from all over the place. We flew in this morning with our friend Andy Gibbons. It's a shame our other good mate Steve Bennett couldn't be with us. I think that would have made for a spot-on weekend, you know. We've got people arriving from all over the world. We've got we've got 450 odd at the last count. 457 booked for Dubai Mags for the game. There's 500 meeting in Bangkok with the Thai Mags. The Hong Kong Mags have got somewhere booked out. The Doha Mags, because it's Ramadan and because Qatar are a little bit more traditional than Dubai still regarding Ramadan, have hired a bloody apartment so they can all watch together and have a drink together because none of the bars are open. This is what people are doing in the Middle East, but then around the world you've got people, 50 odd meeting for breakfast in New York. The San Diego Mags will have 30 plus. Just cracking. And everybody coming together, and that's what it's about. It's that. And for me, it just feels so different to the last time. To me, it genuinely feels like it's our time. And it everywhere I'm looking and everywhere I'm getting feedback from on the WhatsApp groups that we're on, like Stu said, yeah, there's always somebody who's going to be extremely negative, but even with things like positivity from Dan Byrne getting an England selection, talk about making what a weekend that lad could have this weekend, and so it just has a totally different feeling, a totally different vibe, and that's what I'm buzzing off at the minute.
Yeah, big thanks to Meg who sent these in. He's down there early and he's had a little walk around Wembley today, which has been fantastic. And he said it looks fantastic. He's sworn to secrecy. He can't tell us what's on the big flag. Well, he's told me we can't announce it on here. What's on the flag? It's a big surprise, of course. With the scarves, there's the scarves already on the seats. So exciting times. Cup final fever starting to build. Well, of course, we'll have a little look at the game towards the second half. Lots of comments coming in as well. And don't forget, if you've got any questions, for the lads and the build up to the final, chuck them in. Lots of people, of course, want to talk about other things as well. Just want to give a shout out as well to Mirdad Gadushi, because I went down to see a few people in London yesterday, but I had an hour with him yesterday in the Grosvenor Hotel. He was asking after all of the lads on the screen. Passed on his best wishes. Him and Amanda will be at the final. It was great to see him, but he's, of course, hoping for a Newcastle United victory at the weekend. But it was great to catch up with him and have an hour with him yesterday. So big shout out to Mirdad, who still watches the show. So very nice of him to keep in touch with NUFC matters via this channel. Denise, quite simply, 65,000 won't be enough, says John Askew. What's he talking about? Well, he's talking about the stadium, and that's been a big talking point in the last 24 hours. Basically, Stu, that Craig Hope went big on a story last night, didn't he? He basically said that the new stadium is going to be 65,000. It's going to be on Leazes Park. And, then we had Luke Edwards coming out, basically, raining on that particular parade, saying that wasn't correct. We had a bit of a cross purposes between two journalists last night, two different stories. I mean, what's your feelings on this? I mean, why do you think Craig went big on that last night? And do you think 65,000 is big enough?
I still think it'll be just short of 70,000 to break the record, simply because I think it'll appeal to the Saudis' better nature to see the record attendance we've created. But I think we've been consistent enough for probably a year and a half on this platform that it'll be on Leazes Park, and it's great when people are calling it exclusives a year and a half later. It's quite funny to watch that. But whether it's 65, whether it's 70, I think now the general consensus is the new stadium will be on Leazes Park, and I still think it'll be done by 2030. That was another thing. 2030, I think it was Luke Edwards that piped up with that one. Well, again, without blowing our own trumpets, I think everyone on this screen's been banging on about that since the takeover, and for different reasons, including Al Walid as well. So we know the reasons behind 2030. It's the 100th anniversary of Saudi Arabia. It's a huge, and this is part of the PIF as well, is to make the country self-sufficient or less reliable on oil, to have more than half of its GDP from other sources other than oil. And from the sports perspective, they want us to be the highest, the biggest brand. And this is why I always smile or get irked, one of the two, depends what mood I'm in, about the negativity that comes out with, they're not interested. I can't remember a time they haven't put money into us when they've been asked to, or when it's been capable to do. And I know you'll get the detractors and say, well, why don't they sponsor us this? Why don't they sponsor us that? If you look at what Silla did, they got knocked back for trying to sponsor us more. And I don't think there's many sponsors of any Premier League teams that have done things like what Silla did last night. It just shows that even though we are owned from abroad, they get the community feel. They get what it means to the supporters. Yeah. And we're all heading in the same direction. And unfortunately, through no fault of our own or their own, it's going to take a little bit longer than what was first anticipated. But we'll get there. And Sunday has to be the start of it. It's going to be fantastic. And I know we'll talk about the game in more depth later on, but I think we all deserve it now. I think it's about time.
Yeah, Mitch, it's 65,000. Some people saying, well, you could probably build that and then probably extend on it, but we know this. We know the Saudis will want to do it properly. So in a game, we've mentioned this many times on here. Stu rightly says we've been going on about this for an hour and a half. It's hardly exclusive news. Yeah,
and look, I think 65,000 is a starting point. 65,000 extendable, I think, is the way I would, view that. We've got to keep a healthy demand for tickets. I tell you what, we don't want the situation that some clubs in Italy got to in the 90s, and where they built these grounds, and then they extended the grounds, and then all of a sudden in the Coppa Italia they're playing in front of 16,000, and the place looks like a vacuum. We don't ever want to be in the potential to see that. It's amazing how many Italian clubs with their new grounds have actually almost downsized because they want to keep that healthy interest, but they also don't want to have the games where there's not the demand. They don't want the place looking half empty. So it's a challenge. It's a balance to get it right between keeping a healthy demand for tickets and keeping the ground looking packed all the time and not creating sort of areas where it isn't full, quite literally. So I think people are getting obsessed with numbers, which are not really terribly relevant. And secondly, I genuinely think if you think we're going to sell 70,000 plus out week in, week out, even at the height of our powers, I just don't think it's going to happen. I'm aghast at the plans that have been released for Man U to say that they want 100,000. They'll not sell 50,000 if they keep playing the way they're playing. That will look as empty as bloody Billy Smart's bloody circus. If the design looks horrendous. But anyway, that's another matter. I mean, regarding us, I think they've definitely got a balance to keep between keeping a healthy interest in tickets and not just building so many that the place looks half empty. I think creating a stadium that has opportunities to make money in many, 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 many other ways, and the actual attendance figures ultimately are just a small part of it.
65,000, Steve. Journalists always want to be the first one to break the story. And did Craig go a little bit early, do you think? Or
quite possibly, because you would have anticipated that the news would have come out of the football club first rather than a journalist, and then to have a spat between two journalists from competing newspapers. Always find that quite interesting, because the press know what's going on, so we're told. And then the two of them start having a little tete-a-tete. But this happens regularly, doesn't it? But
yeah.
In terms of the attendance, I mean, let's break a few confidences now. Let's say what we heard. Let's say what we knew. Let's say what we were informed of or made aware of many, many, many months ago. 80,000 seater stadium. St James's Park, no. Leazes Park, yes. Retractable roof, yes. Pitch conversion like the Bernabeu, yes. An underground car park, yes. All of those things that we were informed of. A multi-use stadium, a stadium that can be used, that would fill for concerts, a stadium that will bring with it all of the hot summer sports that can't take place in Saudi Arabia, and the Saudis will have a base in England, in Britain, where they can have those events under their own flag. Yes, all of those boxes were ticked. All of those boxes we were anticipating. A double ring of executive boxes, more executive boxes than you've ever seen in your life, because there is a certain quartile that love the executive box experience. Anyone who's picked up the fanzine will see in a little piece that I've written about the finances of football, where it's heading in terms of why you would need a stadium. I mean, you just look at what's happened at Madrid, where they've sold 5,000 seats. I think the price was €999, and those 5,000 seats are sold entirely to corporate, but it's giving the opportunity, which is, I think, the most important thing. We go on about corporate, we go on about the corporate clients and getting tickets ahead of people and that type of thing, but it's the corporate prices that hopefully, when under a new ground, that keep the rest of the ticketing prices, or a certain section of ticketing prices, the right price, so that we can fill 70, 75, 80,000. That's the key. Mitch is dead right. There's nothing worse than seeing a stadium where there's 40,000 rattling around in an 80,000 seater stadium. But it's up to the powers that be to understand that the way to avoid that is to have decent football being played on the pitch, and B, to have a pricing structure that allows people from all quartiles of the region to be able to pay what they can afford to get into the ground. I think that's probably the most important aspect of it. This is key for me. It's absolutely key. And this is an area I think that it's quite possible certain people within the football club haven't quite grasped, because you just look at the price increases in the tickets that were going. It's always upwards. It's always an upward projectile. And that for me, yes, it's supply and demand, people will say, and they'll come out with all of that type of thing. But if you're going to if you want to fill a stadium, then you've got to make sure you get your pricing structure right, and it's got to be right so that the fans who have perhaps may be excluded, and we don't want anyone excluded from a new and revived St James's Park and a new and revived Newcastle United just because it's become too expensive. That's wrong in my opinion. Yeah. And Newcastle United have got to do everything they can to make sure that doesn't happen. Why are we building a new stadium? Because we're future-proofing our football club for the next 50 years. That's the key. It's 30 years since we did since John Hall came out with his plan for Leazes Park. It's 25 years since the extensions were first mooted on the Leazes End and the Milburn, and they eventually got built. But football's changing, sports changing, communities are changing, and you're future-proofing our football club. And we're lucky that we're having it future-proofed by people who can afford it. This is key. This is if we want to be a successful football club. Mitch was dead right when he talked about the Italians. One of the problems the Italians had was that their grounds were built specifically for the World Cup in 1990, and then clubs were parachuted into those grounds without even asking because they were built by the municipality. And that's why you ended up suddenly the Stadio dell'Alpi, suddenly they reverted out of it and reversed out a few years ago and went to something like 45,000. Because that's all, believe it or not, a big club like Juve could justify. We're seeing Lazio and Roma pulling out and making them smaller. But ironically, the only World Cup that actually made any money of all the World Cups was the 2006 one in Germany. And a perfect example, Schalke, 65,000. Schalke are in the second division at the moment of the Bundesliga. They're in Bundesliga B. They took 25,000 away fans to Hertha Berlin last weekend. If you're getting the club right, and I've been to Schalke and I know the situation that Schalke have found themselves in over the last few years, in terms of on the pitch as well as off the pitch financially. But the club's on the up again, and it just shows you what's helping the club to get back on the up. The supporters. The supporters are key. Without support, a football club is nothing. And that's, at the end of the day, what Newcastle United have got to remember when they build this new stand, or the new ground, rather. It will be fantastic. We'll be so proud of it when we get in. But the only caveat I would say is we're probably talking 6 to 8 years, I would suspect, before we get to the fact that we have bums on seats, because I think we've got to think of the planning stage, we've got to think of the building stage. And I know Man United talked about 10. And then Gentleman Jim came out and said he will probably do it in 5. Absolute bunkum. And I think Newcastle United, you just look at the size of the stadium, I think you're probably looking at a 10-year plan. I think we'll have the training ground before that, to be perfectly honest. I think the club will have the training ground up and around before we actually move into the new stadium. But there's nothing to stop both of them running in parallel. And I'll throw you an exclusive in. I think the training ground will be in the West End. There's an exclusive for you. I think it'll be in the West End of Newcastle, not in the East End. Maybe that's a pairing. Maybe that's because we've gone 1881 instead of 1892.
George, 65,000-seater stadium.
I'd be amazed if it's not closer to what Stu said, for the same reason. I'm delighted to say that the evidence is that the higher-ups in PIP have got hold of the Geordie dream in a big way. And you see evidence of it all the time. So, yeah, I'd be amazed if it wasn't closer to 70,000. But I'm not going to argue for that small number. We've already had experience of empty stadiums because Mr. Ashley was giving tickets away because he got threatened by the TV people, didn't he? That they weren't going to televise empty stadiums. And he was giving tickets away. I mean, it was ironic. I go to buy it in 1992 to my seat, and yet I could go to a desk in the university and get a student's ticket for £5. That's how things were, and that was simply just so that there wasn't empty stadiums on the TV screen. So we don't want that. They need to have somebody that's aware of the popular games and not so popular games. And if there's a danger that the one's not going to be highly populated, for God's sake, get round the schools and bring some bands in and, give them a treat and put bums on seats in that way. So, and the other thing is, multi-sports, but I want to see inside the stadium used. There's big, huge, cavernous places inside St. James's Park that have absolutely nothing going on in them. There's not even any fresh air in some of them. But wouldn't it be nice if people could go in and play squash and do things like that 7 days a week, not just to the weekend? So yeah, it wants to be something that we can all use. This community can use 7 days a week, not just on a Saturday and Sunday. And I look forward to the days where we can go to St. James's Park and see the Saudis putting on their big fights then, not just football and the usual things, because I can see that happening. It seems to me it's ideal, isn't it? And it's you know, when there's any decent fights on in the area, the arena gets packed, and I was thinking St James's would as well. So it all good stuff for me. But the other thing is the financial side. Remember when John Hall did it, he faced enormous opposition from the council and opposition from the people that ran the heritage thing in Leazes Park and other oppositions. They all could be opposed because they had the wherewithal. Nobody's got any money now. We have, though. We have. and that answers a lot of questions. I mean, it's, you see, for the other thing is, I don't see PIF just building a stadium and letting the ground around rot. I think Leazes Park will actually benefit from having it in there and not be just degraded. So, but you know, the answer to the initial question is that I'll be amazed if it's not nearer 70,000 for the reasons Stu gave.
Okay, let's talk Dan Burn. You've both, you've all mentioned it briefly, but yeah, he's been called up to the England squad. Stu, obviously you're a proud Scotsman, but you're a big Newcastle fan, and obviously you've we've all waxed lyrical about Dan Burn, and he's played very well this season. Deserved call up. I've seen one or two people questioning, the selection of people like Henderson, Kane, and Burn because of their age. But I mean, if you're good enough, then what does it matter? And I think it's a great reward for him, isn't it? Tuchel, I listened to Tuchel as well. He did a little interview about Dan Burn, and he clearly admires him.
Yeah, the top and bottom is you pick your best squad of the players that are available, and if Tuchel thinks Dan Burn's the player that the best from all the centre halves, so amongst that group, then fine. And for me, it's a fantastic story, isn't it? If you look at where he's come from through the leagues, and we'll see if it gets as much attention as the similar stories that Ian Wright did and Stuart Pearce did. But for us, he's one of our own, and it's a proud moment, not just for him, but for the town of Blythe, for the city of Newcastle, and for every Newcastle United supporter around the world. And it just shows you the harder you work, the luckier you get. And I don't think anyone could question Dan Burn's commitment or work ethic. And for me, ironically, he's probably come at the time when he's probably had the least effective month he has of the season for Newcastle, because at one time he was a shoo-in for Player of the Season. Then Lewis Hall seemed to eclipse him, but he's deserved it, and I hope he gets a game. I don't want him just going down for the how do you word it, just for the crack and having a bit. See how it is behind the scenes. If you pick him, get him playing, and give him that cap. And if anyone's questioning it, I think they should start questioning things like Henderson and Rashford has 2 or 3 good games and gets back in the team. That's from an outsider looking in. I thought it was an easy pick, but it was a big squad, as I understand. It wasn't like a 23-man squad. It was a big squad, which is fair enough. It gives the new manager time to look at the players, and it's not just about what they're capable of doing on the pitch, it's how they interact behind the scenes as well, because his remit's to win the World Cup next summer, isn't it? So he's got to have the right characters as well. And I know Eddie Howe talks about that, and sometimes he gets lambasted for it. But when you're going away with people for that length of time, you need to have the camaraderie right. And if he thinks Henderson's good for that, it doesn't mean you have to play him. If he thinks Rashford's good for that, then that's more debatable. But I don't think anyone could question Dan Burn's team spirit. And he's, for me, it's a reward of hard work, and it should give everyone who is an aspiring footballer, no matter what level that they're at, to believe if you roll your sleeves up and keep going and keep going and keep going, you can achieve your dream. And I really hope he gets the game for England. And so well done to Big Dan Burn.
Yeah, Mitch, great to see another Newcastle player getting recognition, and a Geordie at that.
No, absolutely. And if you listen to anybody who's got something to say about him, anybody who's interacted with him throughout his career, they talk about his work ethic and his professionalism. And I think it's very refreshing in football to see that it's still possible. that there is still a pathway for any professional, that if you apply yourself, if you put the work in, if you improve every day, if you try and make yourself better every week and do the right thing and be a leader in every way that a real leader should be, there is still a pathway for you to get reward to the highest level possible. It's proper Roy the Rover stuff, isn't it? Blythe Spartans to bloody Yeovil, Darlington, and so on and so on and so on. And it's testimony to him. And you hear stories about. I was chatting to somebody who'd gone round to his house for the little one's birthday party, and he introduced himself. I'm such and such's dad, and everybody knew who he was. But in that moment, he was dad. And isn't that refreshing? Do you know who I am? Aye, well, you're that little one's dad. That's who you are. I think it's phenomenal, and he deserves everything he gets out of it. And as Stu says, and it's a phrase I love in sport: the harder you work and the harder you practice, the luckier you get. And there's really no luck in it. The character of the man shines through with everybody you speak to who's had an interaction with him. And so he well deserved and then some.
If you think when we bought him, he was brought in just to be a stopgap to help us stay up. He was just a journeyman that was just going to give a bit of experience. And he's just looked at that and thought, well, no, I'm at my hometown club. And he's improved beyond recognition, from not getting a regular game to Brighton to being one of the first defenders on our team sheet. And it's all credit to him and the effort he's put in. So it is, for me, it's a reward. I don't want to say it's just a reward for his hard work, because undoubtedly he's got talent. I know there's flaws there with pace, etc. But if you look at when we've had our best games this season, he's been one of the best players on our team. And if you look at the two games against Arsenal, the semi-final, which people use as the standard bearer, he was outstanding in both.
Steve, he's living, it's like a boy's own dream, isn't it? It's Roy the Rover stuff, really, from his perspective. Like people are mentioning in the chat there about, he's, where he's come from and what he's achieved, scoring in the Champions League, captaining his team. It's an amazing journey, being in 2 cup finals now. I mean, he could never have imagined it, could he, when he arrived? No,
absolutely not. But you know what? I mean, this is... You're right. It's Roy the Rover stuff, as Mitch says. But the thing is, it's the hard graft he's put in. It's a reward for perhaps you need a stroke of luck, and perhaps that lady luck landed on him at 29 years of age, when Newcastle were looking for someone, and Eddie Howe had the foresight to go and suggest him, and then somebody went out and persuaded the lad. Not that I'm sure he took much persuading, but he's come up and he's grasped his opportunity. The opportunities landed on his lap, and if ever anyone can learn anything, it's if the opportunity's there, take it, take that opportunity, and then build on it. And that's what he's done. And I mean, I doubt even he would have thought when he signed for Newcastle at 29 that, 3 seasons later, he's on the verge of an England cap. I mean, that's just, even if you'd said it to him at the start of this season, you know what, Dan, I think by the end of the season, you'll be playing for England. He would have probably laughed at you. He would have probably said, you're bloody joking, aren't you? Not a cat and hell's chance. Those, my chance of playing for England was never there. And it's, even if it was there, it's long gone. That's probably the attitude that he would have given back, because that's how probably grounded he is. But no, his leadership skills, his attitude, physically and mentally, has probably shone through, and it's excited Thomas Tuchel. It obviously didn't excite Gareth Southgate, because he was never even mentioned in dispatches by Southgate. But Thomas Tuchel obviously has a different viewpoint on football, a different viewpoint on how he wants to do things. And he thinks Dan Burn is someone that is well worth a gamble. And that in itself is, for every football fan out there who's an England fan also, must find quite refreshing. And for other players who are lurking on the shadows but feel as though that their time has passed, I think it's a big boost for them. But I think for youngsters, young players who think it's their God-given right to be in the England squad, I think it could be, a little bit of a kick. I think these type of things can work always. And what I would also say is congratulations to Tino Livramento and to Anthony Gordon, who have both been selected as well. Again, hard work, potential shown through, and we've got to be excited as a football club and as football fans to have Newcastle United players now being recognised, because we've gone for a hell of a long time without that recognition. Players that we felt should have had an opportunity when other players in London clubs seem to stroll into the England team. You often wonder whether they were picked by the press or were they picked by the manager. And 99 times out of 100, I've always been convinced they've been picked by the London press. Dan Burn certainly wasn't picked by the London press. I think we can guarantee that. Maybe it was Gibbo. Maybe Gibbo's had a word. We should look at Gibbo instead, Steve. I'm sure he'll have something to say when he's on next on the show. But no, I mean, I'm delighted for him. Absolutely delighted. And well done to Eddie Howe. Eddie's the one who's kept his feet on the ground probably, and he's also the one who's lifted him when perhaps things haven't quite been going the right way. And I think all in all, fantastic news for the lad.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity, George, isn't it, for Big Dan Burn to play for his country?
Well, yeah, it's more than that, though. I think we should thank Thomas Tuchel for giving our squad a boost before the cup final, because he'll be buzzing in the dressing room. I mean, can you imagine somebody like Dan, who probably wasn't even his mind he might be in the squad, getting that phone call and then dashing to the training ground to meet his mates and say, hey, it's happened, he'll be buzzing and he'll be passing that on to his colleagues in the dressing room. And as will the others that have been selected. And I've no doubt young Lewis Hall would have been selected as well had he been fit. So, Newcastle's knocking on the door, and that's what we want. But as for Dan Burn, well, out of nowhere, he's the blossom that was forgotten in a corner, and he's flourishing now because of this, and so will the people in the dressing room with him. They'll be all absolutely delighted for Dan Burn, and of course that'll give them a boost as well. And I think I've said to you all before as well, I've never reached those heights, but I do remember as a junior when names people will remember, George Dalton, Joe Butler got their first chances to go with the first team. And when they came back, every other kid in the dressing room, including me, was saying, well, if they can do it, I can do it. It really gives you that kind of boost. Now, it'll be doing the same in the dressing room. And somebody's mentioned in the chat there about young Miley. Well, young Miley's played for England at every level. And the way he's progressing, his time's not far away either. I don't think his time's very far away. So it's all very positive, and can only be benefit everybody, including Dan Burn. Wouldn't it be great if he actually got a game though? And you see, the other thing is Thomas Tuchel has in that interview explained in a few seconds why. How many times did Gareth Southgate ever explain why he picked Maguire time and time and time and time again, even though he was playing sugar week after week? It really was. And yet there he was in the England squad. Thomas Tuchel was able to say quite cogently why Dan Burn's there. Never ever heard Southgate say why Maguire's there, was there, and there, and there, over and over again. So it's wonderful. It's absolutely a fairy tale, a dream come true for him. But I think we should say thank you, Thomas Tuchel, for the boost that it'll have given our dressing room before the match on Sunday, because all his mates, all the lads that are in the squad, it'll be thrilled for him, and they'll be thrilled for themselves as well. So I think it's a great boost for everybody, including us, including the squad, and including Tyneside and Northumberland, because as a Blythe lad, it's fascinating to see, and you can pick them out really. Dan Byrne is, down to earth. He's playing at St James's Park before 50,000 on the Saturday, and on the Monday he's serving pies and tripe in the Granger Market with his family on a Monday morning, and looking absolutely at home. So no, couldn't be happier. Couldn't happen to a nicer fella. And that, as I say, great boost for all of us as well.
Yep, great stuff. Well done to Dan Byrne. We'll look forward to seeing them pull on the weight of England after he's won the cup final for Newcastle on Sunday. I do want to just talk about this briefly. Dave, I always watch the press conferences, as you know. There was Eddie Howe's press conference, which was only 20 odd minutes today, 23 minutes, I think. Quite a shorter one with it being the final. But Alexander Isak and Bruno Guimaraes were both the players put forward by Newcastle United for the press conference. Martin Hardy gets the worst question for me this week, lads. Does being linked with a move away from Newcastle unsettle you before a game like this? That was Martin Hardy's question. Now, I'm not picking on the lad. I just think Martin's a Newcastle fan. He's a big Newcastle fan. I've got a lot of time and respect for Martin. Always have done. But why on earth ask a question like that before the final? And I was out with Joe Allen today, and Joe said, you know what I would have asked him? He said, I would have thrown it back at him and said, I hear you've been linked with the Sunderland Echo. He said, I would have made a joke of it. He says, but what Isak did was he just fobbed it off. He says, I don't look at those kind of things. I don't, what can he say? But when everyone should be focused on the cup finals, Stu, why ask a question like that?
Because bad news sells, and that's it. It's people just want controversy, and at the end of the day, the Isaks and Brunos, they are top blue chip players. They're the ones that are known throughout the world, and it won't be the first, it won't be the last time they get asked these questions. But in a way, it doesn't really bother me, because it means we've got players that everyone wants, and we're going to have to get used to it until we're at the top of the tree. And Isak, he knows his value, he knows how good he is, but he's never given any indication that he wants to go anywhere apart from St James's Park and then every other week to another stadium playing in black and white. So let them crack on with it. And if it writes a story, and if it writes gets a few extra clicks on the websites, etc., that's all it's about now. And it's not proper journalism, and we've discussed this many times. And for me, it's a lazy question. And what they should have been saying is, what do you want this week? How do you see yourself? That's the sort of question I was asked. Where would you like to be on Sunday night in your own mind? Have you dreamt about scoring the winning goal? Have you dreamt about being man of the match, like to Bruno and stuff like that? These are the sort of questions where you can get the juices flowing, and then they can start waxing lyrical about how much it means to play for Newcastle United. Because you see, they are a team, and through thick and thin, they stick together, and the camaraderie is more important now than ever before. And I honestly think we're going to go there on Sunday, and we're going to play the game, not the occasion, like we did the last time. And if Martin Hardy or anyone else wants to ask questions like that, it says more about them than it does about the players and so on.
Yeah, Mitch, I just found it, a ridiculous question to ask on the eve of the cup final, especially when you're in Newcastle. And I know Martin was getting towards the end of the press conference, so he was, everyone's asked the juicy questions, but he could have still asked something relevant,
He could have done. It sounds like a question he's been told to ask by whoever pays his wages.
Yeah, possibly, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You don't know what situations individual journalists have at the minute. Everybody's under pressure to do journalism in a different way. Everybody's under pressure for clickbait. for stuff that's easily transferable to the TikTok generation on the internet who've got the concentration span of goldfish, you might as well ask a question like, would you rather have ham for hands or fish fingers for toes? Because you're going to get, about as much relevance out of an answer to that. I actually thought he handled himself exceptionally well and professionally. And actually, the more I hear Isaac speak, and I'm going to say this as well, Bruno sounded like our captain for the first time to me in what I heard of him from that press conference. And that, again, adds to me to that feeling that this time feels different, that people are switched on in different ways. Isaac was the same way in that press conference, the way he was in front of goal, ice cold. He was superb. And he handled that, brilliantly well. What else is he going to say? I tell you what, Martin, fuck me, if we don't win anything and we don't qualify for the Champions League, I'm off. Is that the answer you're really expecting you're going to get? Because it's just not coming. Even from the most dense of footballers, that wouldn't come out. But with somebody like Isaac, you're going to get somebody who at least handles it professionally. And I think that's in the build-up to this, I've been really incensed by a few things this week. One of them, if you remember, some people went to Keith Downey and said, look, will your employer stop trying to sell Isaac to Arsenal? And then this week, they've actually got Isaac photoshopped into an Arsenal shirt as a headline on a next 100 million striker or what have you. I'm sorry, that's an absolute insult. And I'm sorry, Keith. You cannot deny this now. You can't look another way and tell whether there's a squirrel and there's something shiny in the air. Look at this bunch of keys, because we're not going to be distracted from it. That there's certain agendas going on. And why I come back to that question from Martin Smackley, that was asked reluctantly, and it wasn't his question, if you ask me.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. I never thought of that, Steve. We do cover this, on the odd occasion. It's usually Louise Taylor who comes out with the classic stories about drones and stuff like that. Well, she was quite normal today with regards to that. But it was just the timing of it, Steve. I just couldn't understand why, especially with him being a Newcastle fan. And he is a Newcastle fan. He's black and white through and through.
I think he fell asleep during the press conference, then woke up and thought he was back in 1998 writing for the mag. I think that's what's happened. I think he's just had a total day of himself. It's a ridiculous question. If that's the best that a professional journalist can come up with on the eve of a Carabao Cup final, with Newcastle United going up against the team that's sitting in the top of the league, having already knocked out the team that's sitting third in the league, and the team that's also sitting above them in the league in fifth in Chelsea, Nottingham Forest, and we're going up against the team sitting at the top, and he's more interested in, well, will you be here next season? It just beggars belief. It's unprofessional. It's an insult to Isak. It's an insult to Newcastle United on the eve of a cup final to bring up the subject of his future. And it's an insult to Newcastle fans because he's got a unique position as a North East journalist to bring out and get over the passion in cup final week that we're all experiencing, and to get that into the heads of the players with some really, really not probing questions, but feel good questions that you can throw at them. And I just find it totally flabbergasting, to be perfectly honest. Mitch, you mentioned Bruno there. The piece he did on Monday after the game, I thought that was the start of a different side of Bruno. It's the side that many of us know is there, that fun side, that giggly side, that sort of emotional aspect, but also the how much he plays on the players around him, his friends, being there among your mates. It's that sort of thing. I think when things aren't going right, yes, he is one of those professional players that feels the weight, and probably feels the weight of criticism as well. Because I think he's a player that wears his heart on his sleeve. He goes out and he gets frustrated on that football pitch when he's not 100%, when he's carrying an injury or whatever.
We know with him when there's a booking coming because you can see it.
Exactly.
It seems to come out of his ears.
A glow that suddenly appears, a dark glow, by the way, not a bright glow, and you go, oh no, he's going to bring him down. But the guy, for me, you're right. He's opened up into something special. He's for me, he's a special footballer to begin with. But I did question the leadership qualities because I thought that it might be something that weighed on him a little bit too much. And I think most of us have said that at some points this season. Some of us also queried the fact that he was given the job in the first place and why. But we did that in private. We didn't go out and shout our mouths off and try and cause aggravation or bother for him. Not that he would ever be listening to it anyway, of course. But no, I think that we're seeing a good side of Bruno. I think we're seeing a 100% confident side of Bruno. And when Bruno goes on that football pitch, I think that he'll be dragging other players with him. It's a big game for us, a big game, and I think the players this week have probably kept their feet on the ground. I think sometimes as fans we need to keep our feet on the ground a little bit, and keep that nervous energy for Sunday for the match. Don't burn yourselves out tonight or tomorrow, lads. There's a big event on Sunday, and I think that what we saw was the fun side of Bruno. The serious side will be coming on Sunday, and I think the serious side will be coming from us supporters on Sunday as well. That's why I've got my feet on the ground and I'm waiting, and I don't want to burn myself out before Sunday.
I would add to that, Steve, though, as well. I think his serious side comes out better when the playful side is allowed to play.
Yes.
And it is this complex sort of synergy. He needs to have that, the joy of the game, the delight.
Yeah.
To then
feel his influence.
Yes, to then influence professionally and turn up and do what we know he can do.
Yeah.
I thought for me on Monday night, something that's gone under the radar from Monday night, I thought that was the best performance in tandem between Tonali and Bruno this season.
Yeah, it was a mature performance.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and we said time and time again that the midfield three is the critical part of Newcastle United. I think it's a critical part of the game on Sunday, how we control it, and we'll get into that later.
Yeah, we certainly will. Guy Matthews, I'll come back to your question as well, mate. I'll save that one. We'll be looking at the final in a little bit more depth in the second half. Probably not do as many of our usual stuff tonight because it is a big game this weekend, of course, and we've still got a lot to discuss. George, just your views on that question that was asked at the press conference.
Well, it was obviously a pointed question because it was. I don't think it was his. I think he was told to ask it because of the stupid agenda in the south about Isak going to Arsenal. I mean, you can't get past that, unfortunately. But the fact is, what pleased me is the way the two players handled it very professionally, and Isak didn't get upset or he just brushed to one side. And I couldn't help but notice that Bruno was sitting beside him like the father figure a captain should be, having a nice smile on his face as Isak was saying what he was saying. And I too thought this week, after his performance against West Ham on Monday night, where he did one or two step-overs he hasn't done for a long time, he didn't allow his mate Paqueta to fluster him on Monday night. He played his game, played it well, and I thought absolutely right that the cohesion between him and Tonali was spot on. But the important thing for me was that the two players, and I thought Bruno's interview after the match was very professional, but I thought the two of them had dealt with the press absolutely fantastically well. In fact, at the moment, it's hard not to find a Newcastle player that doesn't handle the press well. Some of the interviews of all the players, you can name them: Gordon, Hall, you go through them all and they've all been absolutely spot on. So whether or not they're getting help or not, I don't care. But there's some intelligent lads in our dressing room, and I think that's augurs well for the good. And they're not going to be impressed by some newspaper man saying you want to be in an Arsenal shirt or anything like that. They know what they want. There's no question about that, and they have in their own feet and hands to deliver what they want, starting on Sunday. And I sincerely think they will. It just has such a good feeling, and I do think, and I agree, that for the first time, Bruno did this week begin to look like a leader, which is great, because I got to confess I've not been terribly happy about some of the things that he looked like on the field. And I keep threatening to cut his arms off as he starts waving at the crowd. Well, he was waving at the crowd in a good way this week, in my opinion, and that was great. And I thought he's handled the question absolutely superbly, and his English has developed absolutely incredibly since he came to us, including the Geordie he's been learning. So it all very positive towards Sunday as far as I'm concerned, Steve.
You know what, lads? If I had a quid for every time George has screamed at the match, "Stop waving your bloody arms around, man, Bruno! Get on with the game!" I'll be buying all the beers this weekend, I can guarantee.
And just for anybody watching, George won't actually cut anyone's arms off. It was just a figure of speech, because we know that some people out there will.
Other limbs are available.
Halfway through the show, time for the ads.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. Find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Email info@mrvickies.co.uk or telephone 01768 210 102. A big thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. 2 crew, driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges. All excursions included. Find them at their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email them at beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. You can find them at their website, media-arts.co.uk. If you want to listen to us as a podcast, you can go to Sports Social Podcast Network. You can also find us on iTunes, Spotify, and your other podcast providers. If you want to help support the channel, hit the thumb up, which is the like button. Click share to share to your other social medias. Click join to join the channel. And click the subscribe button. We've also got links in our description for buy us a coffee and to be a Patreon member. Some events coming up. An afternoon with Sir Les Ferdinand, 6th of April, 12 till 4. Tickets available from ticketmaster.co.uk. No Covers takes place at the Clooney, Lilac Lane, Ryder and the Chris Norris Band. Tickets from theclooney.com or by telephone on 0191 230 4474. An evening with Steve Howie and Steve Watson, hosted by Joe Allen, takes place at the Tyneside Irish Centre on the 27th of June. Tickets for that are from newcastlelegends.com. An evening with Peter Beardsley and Chris Waddle takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House on the 23rd of January 2026. Box office 0844 246 1000 or website tynetheatreandoperahouse.tv. An Evening with Bad Manners takes place on Friday, the 30th of January 2026, and tickets available from ticketmaster.co.uk. And we have copies of The Entertainers 1992 to 1997, Kevin Keegan's Legacy, available from newcastlelegends.com.
And limited copies of that book signed by Peter Beardsley and Lee Clark available at the website. Danny Mitchell as well is doing an evening with John Beresford at the Crown Plaza, Friday the 25th of July, 7:30 till 10:30. VIP meet and greet, £35, standard 25. All tickets include pie, peas and a beer. If you scan that code, you can rewind this later on, scan the code and you can go straight to the website. And my latest gig for the dementia charity, Age UK North Tyneside, is this. I think most people know by now that I'm a big Blake 7 fan. We are doing a Blake 7 convention. Tickets are flying out for this, by the way. I can imagine this is probably going to be sold out within about 2 weeks. So if you've got an interest in it and you want to come along, we've got some of the cast coming along. We've got Sally Navette, Jan Chappell, Brian Croucher, Sasha Mitchell. Matt Irvin is coming, who designed all of the models, and he's bringing them with him. We've got John Ainsworth, who's going to compare it. He's the guy who basically does all of these shows up and down the country. They haven't been to the Northeast since 2006, so it's a hell of a long time. We've lost a lot of the stars as well over the years, and with it now being out on Blu-ray, it's having a resurgence. Series A is already out. Series B is coming out later this year. The guys who have done the new special effects and upgraded it for Blu-ray are bringing the new models. They've been in touch with me this week. They're coming over from Ireland. And they are bringing the new spaceships and stuff that they've used to make the Blu-ray. So it's an amazing thing, but it's non-for-profit for us. We are doing that for Age UK, as I say, for North Tyneside, where I'm now an ambassador, and that is something to look forward to if you want something a little bit different. Also got an announcement to make on the fanzine. Had an absolute nightmare with this week. Believe you me. If my week wasn't busy enough this week, I started getting emails from everybody who subscribes to say that they had to pay £1.50 for their fanzine, and that is because the post office didn't put the correct stamps on it. We left 175 fanzines at the post office, and they have basically put a second-class stamp on. So what we did was, as soon as we started hearing the news, we emailed all of the subscribers, and we've offered to take £1.50 off your subscription for next year's fanzines, of which we'll be doing another 4 issues. So hopefully everybody got that. I have been made aware of one person on social media who chose not to contact us direct, but instead have a little spat on Twitter. That was responded to. But yeah, apologies from us, beyond our control, because the post office unfortunately put the incorrect stamps on, because we leave them with the post office and they file them accordingly. Of course, if anybody isn't wanting a subscription, I'm more than happy to send them £1.50, despite the fact that the money has already been paid over to the charity.
Worthwhile noting as well, if you're thinking about subscribing to our fanzine, this man wrote about a shiny new stadium in the first one long before Luke Edwards did.
Yeah, it's been great, and a big shout out to Minnesota Tom as well, who does the fans forum. I've been with him today. I surprised him by he didn't realize he was going to go meet Joe Allen today, so him and his son Jim are over. It's a horrendous story because they actually booked to come to Newcastle this week to go to the Crystal Palace game, which was at home. So they are here in Newcastle to watch the Crystal Palace game, which of course isn't going ahead.
Oh my God.
Hey,
So
supporters can get the look, you know.
No. Tell you something though, nice little message for supporter services here.
Yep.
When you're dealing with overseas fans clubs and you say, yeah, we're going to make a block of tickets available to you and we can give you them in, in 2 weeks' time. No, we need like months to get the ability to plan, to say, right, we can book flights, we can get the flights at a decent price. We can get flights when it's convenient. And all these things, the amount of planning that goes in for an expat fan. Again, you know, there's so many things I didn't understand when I was chair of the trust that I wish I did now. that I know now in hindsight, which I wish I knew, that would have changed my attitude to quite a lot of things, actually. But this is one of them. The amount of planning it takes sometimes to get somebody to St James's Park at the right weekend, at the right time, and then try and get a ticket for the game and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Because not everybody's as lucky in the ballot as certain other people are. You know, it's phenomenal, and that is just such. It's kind of, isn't it? Really, for Tom?
No, I will say, tongue in cheek, Tom, is if anyone hasn't watched him do, he's normally on the fans forum, and occasionally when we do, Geordie's there. He's really, really switched on.
Absolutely.
And comes across with some fantastic inputs to the shows. But I'm disappointed with Tom that he didn't look at the calendar and seen this as a Carabao Cup final.
Yeah.
You know, even back in September, you know.
Yeah.
That's tongue in cheek with Tom, but he's a fantastic fella, and if those at home get a chance to meet him, I think he'd be grateful to engage with you as well.
100%. He's Seattle Thursday, so I know that he's going to be. Well, he's liaising with a few of the lads from the fans forum. He's hoping to meet up with him. But I call him American George. He reminds me of George, which is good. Tell him, George, it's not a ballot, says Mark. If Johnny Allen was doing T-shirts, there would just be a picture of George on one T-shirt saying it's not a ballot, and another one going on about offsides.
Throw-ins on the back.
Throw-ins. Throw-ins. That's it. Throw-ins. Sorry. Okay. Question from Stu Allen. He says, question about all. Is the Newcastle team that starts on Sunday stronger than the side who started the 2023 Cup final? I'd say just about. What do you think, Stu?
I think it definitely is. And it's 2 years more on. It's more experience. And the phrase I used before is this team now know what they've got to do. And I think the interviews that you've mentioned there with Isaac and Bruno, but if you look at all the players' interviews that they've had over the last few months, they've had one collective thing, and they want to win a trophy for the club, for themselves, for the group, for the supporters, for the city. And I genuinely think they're going to be playing the game and not the occasion where we thought we'd actually achieve something by getting to a final last time. You know, it was a first, wasn't it? It was the first final in 20 years. It was the first time in Champions League for 20 years. And it was one of those, it's now, hold on, this is where we want to be. And we're capable of being this. And I think sometimes this is why Eddie Howe does the odd reminder in his press conferences. If you want Champions League, you do it with us. If you think you're a Champions League player, why not do it with us? And the situation that we're in now, I still keep going back to the same thing. I think they've got the focus on achieving something together, and there's one word, it depends how you say it. You could say I'm mortal or immortal, and by the end of tonight us two will be the first one. The players will be the second one hopefully come 6:30 on Sunday evening. And if you look at how the entertainers are still getting loaded off the fan base, and unfortunately there's not as many of the fan base that are still alive that can revere about the 69 Fairs winning cup team, but these players can be absolute legends forever, and they wouldn't get that at another club. But someone has to be first, and everyone remembers who was the first 4-minute mile, who was the first man on the moon, who was the first one to break the 10 seconds, etc., etc., etc. These will be the first team in our lives, well, pardon George's and Steve's, and our lifetimes to win something. And this will be the 7th time since I've been born that Newcastle have been to Wembley, apart from your Mercantile credit one, Mr. Wraith.
Yes.
The 7th time in a competitive cup final. Oh, sorry, a Wembley visit, because I'm including the Chelsea semi-final. And it lucky 7. You know, it's all lined up for, and I said it to Mitch last night, it's all lined up for J7 to complete his redemption arc from someone that was laughed at, lambasted at from the fan base, to come full circle and be remembered as the man who won Newcastle the Cup with the winning goal. And it would be fantastic, wouldn't it? I mean, I don't care which one of them does it. And I won't use the phrase or the part of the appendage that Mitch mentioned about it doesn't care which part of the body it goes in off, as long as it goes in. But they all know that. I think the players know that. And I genuinely think this time they will be playing the game. And they won't be like, hey, look, we've got to Wembley. What a nice day. Isn't this going to be great? Oh, look, black and white. They know they're on a mission. And they're not talking about new stadiums in their interviews. They're not talking about Champions Leagues. They're talking about winning a trophy for this club. Now, that could be the end for some, but it would be the start of something fantastic for us. And that's where we're at the moment. 48 hours time, we'll know the answer.
Mitch?
Hard not to echo everything in there.
Yeah.
I think if you want something a little bit more in depth from me, you're going to be posting that up on Sunday morning, I think, Steve.
I am, yes. It's very good. I've already had a little glimpse of it myself, but it's fantastic as usual. That cup makes an appearance, which everybody loves.
And you know, it's one of those things where I think one of the things that stands out for me this week is we've had effectively our first choice left-hand side taken off with through injury and suspension. Shown away. And we've now got to go into that final with a different mindset and a different way of thinking. Not just about how we're playing, how we are, but how we're set up. And sometimes life chucks you things which it might not be what you want, but it turns out it's what you need. And then there's somebody in that dressing room right now is set up potentially to be more than a hero, you know, and I think it's genuinely palpable in a way that I don't think it was at that last final. And I think that's one of the biggest differences between this final and the last final. I think there's people there that are now ready to step up to the plate, that are not just happy to be there. We're not just happy to be there. We want to win the bloody thing. And I think we've got people in that dressing room who are of the same mindset. And I don't think we had that the last time.
That's the difference. That is the difference. 100%. I agree with you. Steve, it's, it's hard to disagree with anything the lads have said there.
No, absolutely. We talked about it for a few weeks now. It's which Newcastle United turns up on the day. This is an opportunity to write themselves into history. You're absolutely right. On Monday night, I was very much of if we play like we've just done on Monday night, Liverpool will rip us a new one. 24 hours later, I was, if Liverpool turn up and play like this on Sunday, we will rip them a new one. That's football. That just goes, the emotions there. You look at things sometimes through rose-coloured specs. Sometimes those rose-coloured specs are blacked out as well, and you only see the negative. I suppose that's the nature of being a football fan at times, because as a fan, you wear your heart on your sleeve. You get frustrated by what you see. You feel as though sometimes you've been let down, all of those type of things. But we're in a cup final. It's 90 minutes. It's 11 against 11. It's an opportunity, as Mitch says, for someone to step up to the plate and be an absolute hero. I can still rattle off the 1974 team. The first cup final we'd had since 1955. I can't rattle off the team, I don't think, of 99 or 98. I'd probably get a couple of them wrong, mainly because in both instances, both managers made some strange decisions in terms of their lineup that you forget about, and then you would probably sit back and curse if you wanted to dwell on it, you know. I'm thinking, first of all, the goalkeepers and what he did there, and one or two others. But this time, in comparison to 2023, I think that we've got players who have been through it, and squad's relatively the same. But from an emotional side, they've seen what the disappointment is. They've seen the hurt. They've felt the hurt. They've felt the hurt in their own mind. They've felt the hurt of the fans, and I think that that's something that G's them on. But I think all I want them to go out, and I want them to perform, and I want them to do it for themselves first. I know it sounds silly, but I want them to go out as professional footballers and go, I'm a professional. I go up and I put 100% into this game. If I get beat because the ball's gone off the back of someone's backside or whatever, that's tough. But I want them to go there with no fear. I want them to go there and I want them to put the effort in that shows that they've got no fear, because they don't have anything to fear. When they play on their game, we've seen them over the last 2 seasons. We've seen the majority of this team perform out of their skin and to give us some really exciting times, both home and away. And there's no reason why they can't do that again. Maybe Monday night and the performance overall was more to do with what was coming. Maybe some of the cup matches we could put that down to it. But they've had a full week to prepare, both physically and mentally, and without having, other than the press conference today, without having the fanfare that we had last season. They haven't gone down early, and they're not staying in the Hilton and all of those things. And we talked about it over the last few weeks about the mentality that the football club needs to have, the winning mentality, and whether people within that football club have the winning mentality. It's something that comes. And I listened to, I passed it to you guys. I saw the Gary Neville Overlap podcast where they were talking, and they all came out and all felt as though that, you know, Liverpool would turn us over. And I had to, I'll not say laugh, because it was a kind of laugh, but it was more an angry laugh. When
scream internally into the void.
Yeah, when I like Jill Scott turns around and said, "Well, you know, I felt as though in '98 Man United were always going to win," and you go, Jill, you were 11-year-old. For God's sake,
it was 99 we played Man United.
99, yeah, sorry, and you were 11-year-old, pet. You know, it's like you're also a Mackham. You didn't want to win to begin with. For God's sake, what the hell is all this about? And that, yet there you are, like 20 odd years later, coming on a podcast as though that you've played 150.
There's some phenomenal revisionist history goes on amongst some of these sort of lesser lights in football commentary, shall we say, who are quite happy to basically reinvent reality to put a spin on that gives them some credence and relevance.
Yeah, and you've got the nodding dogs sitting around there going, "Yeah, you're right, Jill. Yeah, that's the way it was, you know." And you're going, "Wayne, you were even younger. Get stuffed, you know. I'm not having it. I'm not having it." And it's just all designed to knock us back, and it's ridiculous. But these people get away with it time and time and time again, and it's embarrassing for them. They need to be pulled up for that type of thing. But maybe I just have, I don't know. But
well,
no,
I keep saying, Steve, it's simply down to the fact that we just make great clickbait, and it just drives these clips. So that, you know, those kind of clips, you've mentioned it today. So, you know, people who haven't seen it will then go and search it up and look at it. You sent it to us, so we looked at it, and that makes money, Steve. It's a revenue stream, and it's as simple as that. And we bite more than anybody else because we are the most passionate fans.
Look, recent history shows the one thing Gorilla Gloves has been brilliant at is goading our lot into a response.
Yep, 100%.
Newcastle this week, though.
Yeah, but he knows what he's doing.
Maybe it's also an age thing when you've got like influencers, when the club is courting social media influencers from London, and they're bringing them up here, and they're doing free kicks.
Oh, free kicks on the training ground with chunks. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the only chunks I know are pineapple ones for a start. Maybe that's the age, but anyway, enough of that.
Right? Is this rhyming slang? We're going down the wrong direction here. George, I'll come to you. The original question was: Is this cup final team stronger than the one we had in 2023?
Yes. Short answer, yes. But I'm sitting here laughing because I go back to where I started. Remember, you're supporting Newcastle United. In 51, the whole bloody country hated because we pinched Stanley Matthews' cup medal. That final was where Stanley Matthews was going to win his cup medal. In 52, the whole country hated because the Arsenal were going to win the double. And we knackered the Arsenal's double, so they hated me for that. In 55, we got so upset 2 weeks before the final, we sacked our bloody manager because he wasn't going to play Jackie Milburn. So the San Seymour put Jackie Milburn on and he scored a goal in 45 seconds. It's just your Newcastle United, man. That's all it is. And it being toned down by the idiots in the south is water off a duck's back. And it makes winning all that much more sweeter. And we'll enjoy it on Sunday 1,000 times better than if it was just normal, because that's what's going to happen. I've got no doubt about that. And Steve talked about the 74 final. The only thing I can remember seriously about the 74 final was those horrible bloody purple tracksuits they were wearing, because Seymour had them in his shop. They were complaining because Liverpool had matching tracksuits and shorts and all that sort of thing. So Seymour went to his shop and that's the only thing he could find, a bunch of purple tracksuits for a girls' netball team. So he had our team go out on the pitch at Wembley. yeah, it's Newcastle United, man. If it all went smooth, it wouldn't be us.
The other highlights, George, the other highlights of that cup final were Brendan Foster running around the track beforehand.
Yeah.
And Bruce Forsyth doing a bide with me.
Yes. If they can have a go at where they will, and so what? We're above it and we're better than it, and that's what will get we're through.
Yep. No apologies for not having any of our usual stuff on tonight because it is a big game this weekend. Joseph, good evening.
Hello, Joe.
Good evening. All right, Penman, are you well?
Very well, Mr. Joseph. How are you?
All right, I think I will be on Sunday.
Yeah. The question I know you were listening in the green room, Joe, was is this cup final team stronger than the one in 2023?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. See you later. Thanks. It's always worth the wait, isn't it? It's always worth the wait. I think it is, Steve. I think it is. With the greatest of respect to Loris Karius, we've got a goalkeeper for a start, whichever one plays. Looking at the team, I've got the team in front of me. There's actually some characters in there that will play on Sunday. But is the team better? Is it much more better drilled? Is the formation better? Have we got arguably the best centre forward in Europe playing for us on Sunday? Yeah. He come off the bench last time. Is Bruno a better version? Yes. Is Dan Burn better in the centre of the defence than he was at left back? Yes. His England call up will probably be testament to that today. So I think there's a lot of things that would give me confidence. Is Eddie Howe a better manager? Yes. Have we learned? Yeah, absolutely. And since that cup final, have we had the ability to batter PSG? And have we had the ability to go to the San Siro and grind the draw out? And have we shoved 6 past Tottenham Hotspur after 10 minutes? And, all of these things, I think, building up. Have we just beat Arsenal over 2 legs and looked like far better side? Yeah. So I think confidence-wise, I think this is a much, much better Newcastle United. And as the lads have rightly said, hopefully this Newcastle United aren't just going for a party. Hopefully we're going to win it this time. And I don't think we did a couple of years ago. I think the occasion got to us. We were beaten by a Manchester United side that arguably wasn't brilliant, but they were better than us. They were much better than us. So, yeah, it feels different this time. I've gone from what's the point in going because we're going to get smashed to, do you know what, the closer it's getting, let's get stuck into these. Let's do what Paris done to them. Let's do what Villa have done to them recently. Sides have got into them. Sides have got at them. And that's without it being a cup final. there's something on this now, and if someone wants to write their name in history, hopefully it'll be Joe Linton, because you know how I feel about him. But somebody is going to score the winner on Sunday, and I just hope and pray that they're playing in black and white, because I can't describe. There's been conversations lately about what's this going to feel like. What is this actually going to feel like?
I'll be in tears.
Yeah, I'll be in tears as well. Yeah, when I see the price of the bar bill.
I've told you I'll be in a container ship on the way to Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Ranger, that's me.
We'll be upside down in the fountain, won't we? So, yeah, it's going to be an emotional time. But Liverpool, I know Liverpool, best team in England. I know best team in England. Best strikers in England. Whatever. I'm a hell of a lot more confident than I was 2 years ago. Put it that way.
Yeah.
Hey Joe, remember when you were younger, you used to collect the Panini stickers?
Aye.
Right, and the Dundee badge was the easy one, wasn't it? And,
Yeah.
And done where you were talking about it, me and Mitch talked about it, and Steve Hasty touched on it before. We've beat to get there. If we're going to win this, we've done it the hard way, and no one can begrudge it us.
Absolutely, mate.
Beat the top team. We would have beat the team that's second in the league. We'll beat the team that's third in the league. And they beat the team that's fifth in the league. Or fourth. Chelsea fourth or fifth now, fourth. So we would have had to beat the top four plus Brentford, who are nobody's mugs.
Yeah,
no one can say we haven't deserved it.
Absolutely, Stu. And I think you're dead right. And I think whether it's Jill Scott, whether it's hairy hands, whether it's Sky winding us up, whether it's crap questions that journalists are asking stupidly of Alex Isak or whatever today, there's only one way to shut the lot of them up, and that's to see Kieran Trippier and Bruno lifting that trophy together on Sunday. And nothing.
And Jamal Lascelles.
Yeah,
and Lascelles if he can make it up the stairs. Nothing would give us greater pleasure just to say, "How we then, Jill? Let's see what the reset's got to say next week."
No, the best part I'm looking forward to is the Liverpool fans that we know. Oh, it didn't really matter to us, and it's your first couple of ages. Let them see it, because they know it'll be our first couple of ages. Quite right, but it'll be the first of many to come. And it's like and none of them want that scab to be picked.
It didn't do Man City any harm winning the League Cup, did it?
Let them tell them let them convince themselves it's not important to them, because it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big thanks to everybody watching tonight. 1,000 watching live. 500 of you on Twitter. 500 of you on YouTube. So those 500 watching on Twitter, please jump over onto YouTube. Search NUFC Matters. Hit the subscribe button. We still do 7 shows a week, and we have been posting shorts on YouTube and on TikTok. They've built up a lot of traction them over the course of the last couple of weeks, thanks to a new bit of technology that StreamYard's given us. So thank you for your kind comments on that. Glad that people are enjoying the little shorts that are coming from the show as well.
We'll flip this next one when I say funny.
Yes, George's favourite word. Blue Rhythm Boy asked a question to George, but I'm going to ask it to everybody. Basically, it was this. Would a win on Sunday mean more than any of our previous honours? Stu?
Well, as I've touched on before, Steve, I've never been alive for us to have a previous honour, so of course it would. But when you hear George wax lyrical about the team in the 50s, it was a case of they knew they were good. And for those who watch the channel often, you'll hear George telling you that they forsake the league to win the cup. In one of the seasons, they were that good, and the cup had the prestige to do that. The FA Cup, even when we were younger, it did. But I'm at the stage now where just give us something. Just give us that shiny pot. Let Lascelles get given the trophy, and with Bruno and the dancing around, and I hope that's the dream. That the question was about. Someone says, "Tell me about your dream, Stu." I really hope it's the one with Lascelles and Bruno lifting the trophy. Otherwise, you might get banned, Steve. So I'll keep it clean.
Yeah.
We'll just have to be ready for this. And I think we are. I think now is the time. I think the mindset's right, and it has a different feel about it.
Where would it stand, Mitch?
It
for
has
you?
to be number one, doesn't it? The first one's always the best one.
Same for you, Mitch?
That's the dream I had when I was teabagging Kylie Minogue. Anyway, I digress. Look, it
She's a coffee girl.
I'm sure she is. I've got a joke about that, but I better not repeat that one here. It has to start somewhere. And again, for more of this, tune in on Sunday when Steve puts me little message out.
Yeah,
it's not a little message, and it's one of those, for those, I've been honoured enough to listen to it. And without giving too much away, there's a lot of talk about American football, but if you listen to the story and hear it played out, it gives you goosebumps.
yeah. Looking forward to that one.
When we win, that'll be your most viewed video of all time on the show.
Yep, it's going out Sunday, everybody, so keep an eye out for that. George, this could be a different answer from you. Where would it stand? You were around 51, 52, 55, 69. You've seen it all. So from your perspective, where would this stand?
Well, it stands at the top, Steve. Don't forget that football was a lot more parochial than it is now. And it did throw the league away to win the cup twice. That's absolutely true. But as lads have already said, we've beaten all the others. Let's beat the top team at Wembley, and it would stand there as number one for me, because it's no longer just a parochial thing. It's an international thing, and it would be such a breakthrough. It would be such a breakthrough that we've needed. We got a bit blasé in the 50s because we seem as though we could win it at will. But the important thing about this one is it's a breakthrough. It's most of you have said it. It's getting the monkey off our back. So it would be up there with the best because it's much more important. Don't forget in the 50s as well, the cup was where the money was. That's why they sacrificed the league. The cup was where the money was. There was no money in the league. Quite different now. So even for me, it would be up there with the best, Steve. And I can't wait for it to happen. To be perfectly honest, can't wait for it to happen.
Good stuff. Joe?
Yeah, I mean, not as important as the Cellar Cup win over the last 2 seasons, but yeah, absolutely, Steve. And for me personally, I can't imagine what it's going to feel like. I cannot imagine what it's going to feel like when that full-time whistle goes and the scoreboard says we've won 2-0 or whatever. But I think for me, I'm thinking of it as the catalyst. Not only have we won something, the monkey's off the back, we can all stop talking about, whenever it was the last time and all the rest of it. I just think this is the start now. This is the real start. So you've got your trophy. Hopefully we've got some significant amount of money to spend in the summer, and we're getting a new big shiny thing built in the Leazes Park. So this is the start, isn't it? We just need to get over the line. And I think we will. I hope we do, and I think we will. So, yeah, it'll mean everything.
Steve?
Well, it has to be, Steve, because we've waited 70 years. Simple as that. Mm-hmm. It's something that we've all been waiting for since 55. I was going to say we've been waiting since 69, but...
Oh, for God's sake.
He set himself off again. We've all just calmed down.
I know. I thought it had. But then I looked at Stewie again and he started us off.
Steve, it's nearly 70 years. So how many years is it?
It's 70 years, Stu.
Nearly 70 years in May.
So I only got a grade 2 CSE, so I'm not getting involved in that one. No, it's something that we've been waiting for. It's something that we've had opportunities in the past that have gone away. This for me is something that the players have to grasp. It's something that we have to grasp. And when we get the opportunity to win something, we've always said it'll kickstart the football club. It'll turn this football club around into something really, really special. We think the football club's special, but I think this gives us a win on Sunday gives us the opportunity to turn around to the rest of the world and go, see, we told you. This is our football club. this is what winning means. This is what, you know, you've all sat and waited and waited. And some of you have had success handed you on a plate, but we haven't. We've waited 70 years for this. Name another football club in the world who has had success in the past, but a gap of 70 years that is finally going to be broken, and we're going to start on that path of winning regularly, year in, year out. That's what it's all about. That's what we've been waiting for. That's what our football club is about. We're gonna reach for the stars, and we're gonna grab those stars, and we're gonna take our football club into a totally different dimension. And I think people will be gobsmacked. But the celebration is the one that'll get them first, because they think they've seen celebrations. Dear me, it's going to go on for weeks. It's going to go on for weeks. Mackhams are going to hate it. Tough.
Great stuff. Got 20 minutes left, lads. Let's look ahead to the final. Then, of course, takes place on Sunday. And wow, this could be it. This could be the end of the wait. We've all been talking about it. The flags on the way down there now. The scarves already out on the seat. A wonderful display by Sella. As well yesterday, scarves and windows painted up in Newcastle as well. It's all happening. It's a 4:30 kickoff anyway. Don't forget, if the score is level after 90 minutes, 30 minutes of additional time will be played, and if that fails to divide the sides, a penalty shootout will take place. If you're going down to Wembley, don't forget that there's a public space protection order around Wembley. That means that consuming alcohol anywhere except licensed premises is an offence, in particular on street drinking. And that is the same regulations which cover the underground. Pubs in the immediate area are also unable to show the final live on TV due to licensing restrictions. 32,000 scarves are laid out on the seats, which is fantastic to create that wonderful sight that we saw last time around. It's the second time Seller have distributed scarves for away travellers. We did this, of course, at the Stadium of Light for the FA Cup. Team news, well, Anthony Gordon is suspended. Lewis Hall, Sven Botman and Jamal Lascelles are all injured. A little update on Botman and Hall. They're both successfully come through their respective operations. And other than that, it's a clean bill of health for Newcastle United going into the final, where they have a great opportunity, I would say, to lift their first bit of silverware. Liverpool, Joe Gomez and Connor Bradley are out injured, while Trent Alexander-Arnold is a doubt after going off during the midweek Champions League meeting with PSG. Arnie Slot will be back on the touchline after serving his ban. As well as their defeat against PSG in the Champions League, they beat Southampton 3-1 in the Premier League, which makes it 6 domestic games unbeaten since the FA Cup defeat at Plymouth. In the Premier League, Liverpool have won 21, drawn 7, lost once so far this season. And Darwin Núñez and Curtis Jones were the villains of the piece. Midweek, they had their penalties saved. Alisson failed to stop any of PSG's. You need a strong referee for cup finals. We've got John Brooks. This is the Leicestershire official's third game of the season involving Newcastle, and he's been quite a lucky ref for us. He refereed the 1-0 Premier League home win over Arsenal and the 2-0 semi-final first leg success against Arsenal at the Emirates. He has taken charge of a Newcastle-Liverpool fixture recently, and that was the 2-1 win for Liverpool in August 2023. That was when he sent Virgil van Dijk off. VAR is in operation for the final, and that will be Stuart Atwell. Okay, as always, we are going to have a little bit of this. You know when you press the when you press the wrong button. I've just done that because we haven't got anything from Stato this week. He's on his way across to.
Hello, amigos.
Thank you. That's very good.
It's class this show.
So we're now going to play. So I've done quite well up to this point.
Will I run into the toilet and film myself on it and speak with sort of like an Eastern European accent and see if we can get away with it?
No, definitely not. We'll definitely get banned for that.
No.
We'll play this instead. Over over to you, Joseph.
Oh, is anyone else excited? I'm really, really excited.
Yeah.
Not for the cup final, because it's the big relegation 6-pointer Leicester Man United at the weekend, isn't it? I can't wait. So bear with me while I try and explain this. After 90 minutes, Liverpool are obviously very, very clear favourites at 13 to 20. Put 20 on, you get 13 back. The draw after 90 minutes is a tempting 3-1, and the bookies have got us just under 4-1 to win the game in 90 minutes. To lift the trophy by any means, so that's 90 minutes, extra time or penalties, Liverpool are 3-10. And we are just over 2-1. 14-1 if you think we'll win it in extra time, and 11-1 if you think we'll win it on penalties alone. Mo Salah is the favourite to score any time in the game at just under evens, and the worst striker in the world, except when he plays against us, because when he plays against us, he looks like classic R9. Darwin Núñez is 2-1 to score, but that's enough about them. We don't want to know. Alex Isak, 6-4. Harvey Barnes, 17-4. Jacob Murphy, 6-1. Wouldn't that be nice? Big Joe, my money's going on at 15-2. Bruno, 12-1. Sandro, 14-1. And England's Big Dan Burn, 20-1 at the back post. He's definitely due one, and wouldn't this weekend just be the greatest time to get it? Right, 0-0, 10-1. 1-0 Newcastle, 12-1. 2-0 Newcastle, 18-1. 4-3 Newcastle, Stewie, 50-1. And your result, now I don't know what you got, because you probably put this on.
You to 40s.
22-1. We've got
40s for 3-1. I sent it to you.
Yeah. There you go then. There you go. 22-1 if you want to follow Stewie tonight. Ones each, 6-1 after 90 minutes. A red card in the game is just over 3-1. And because we're playing Liverpool, there's a high chance there'll be a penalty within regulation time, and that is 2-1. So in terms of winning the pot, the bookies don't fancy us, but who cares? Get your money on Newcastle.
Bet sensibly. Thank you, Joe. Can I just say well done to Taylor? I was up in Dundee last week for an evening with Peter Beardsley. It was their second charity event that they have done in the last 2 years. And he's just texted us tonight to say that he's donated £3,570 to help for kids in Dundee. So well done, Taylor. 180 Newcastle fans came along to that. There was 120 for Nobby Solano last year, 180 this year. There's a lot of organisation goes into these things, and especially when you're outside of Newcastle and away from it. I mean, we know the great work that Dubai Mags do, and you know that they all do out there in a different country. But you know, up in Dundee, you know, fantastic effort that by Taylor, and you know, well done, mate. Enjoy your the praise that will come your way, mate, and get yourself refreshed and get ready to do your next one next year. I'm sure you'll want to go bigger and better, but fantastic. Great stuff. Well done, mate. Okay, let's look ahead to the final. And Stu, the final. Yeah, a couple of questions in there which can be added to this. Afternoon, lads. Is Barnes the man to fill Gordon's boots, or would he be more effective from the bench, which he usually seems to be? How are the lads? Ian Brownlee reminds us that if Murphy scores, then if he scores the winner, Darren has got to get a tattoo with him. Yeah, that's good news. Guy asked this question earlier. Will Bruno be versus McAllister be an interesting contest? You know, there's so many interesting duels. Van Dijk against Isak. Tonali against Szoboszlai, Bruno versus McAllister. You know, there's going to be battles all over the pitch, Stu, isn't there? And you know, it's a game we can win.
Those three you mentioned, Steve, I'd take our player over their player any time. So that bodes well for us. And I'm glad we've chose a different number, because we were getting a bit childish before. So when Steve Hasty started saying we should reach for the stars, I was expecting Joe to get his S Club 7 CD out and start bobbing his hands in the air. So with that, and with Joe's affection for Joe Linton, I touched on it earlier, not Joe's affection, the Joe Linton arc. And if it's going to be 1-0, I think he'll score. But as I always do, 3-1. I'm going to go for some right wild predictions. So Isak will obviously score after putting Van Dijk on his backside. Joe Linton will score, and you'll see an image of Bruno copying Harvey Barnes as he nets as well. So that's where the 3 goals will come from. But strangely, I have bet 4. I've had 3 bets: 1-0, 3-1, and 4-3. And it is our team. I think everyone's aware of it now. And when people say, "Well, Newcastle turns up," when we've had a game of this magnitude, well, obviously this is the biggest one. But if you look at the semi-finals, if you look at the other big games we've played over the last year or so, the team, the squad have all turned up. And I think what happens on Sunday will excuse every poor performance since we dispatched Arsenal very comfortably at home in the second leg. And if you look at the Bournemouth games, the Fulham games, the Brighton games, all of that, we know that they've had, irrespective of what Eddie Howe tells us, they've had their eyes on Wembley because their focus is to win a trophy for this club. They want to be the ones that break the mold. They want to be revered for life from the fan base that does adore them. And I know we'll question them and at certain quarters it gets a bit out of hand, but they, I think, feel honoured to play for this club. And this is what it's all being geared up for. And not that they don't deserve, or we don't deserve a performance of them. I think they deserve it for themselves. They need to go out and think there's no distractions now. We can't say there's a cup final on the horizon. This is the cup final. And they just go out there and be the best version of themselves they can be. And if they do that, we'll win the cup on Sunday. I really believe we will. And I don't care how many goals it is and we've got and how many goals they've got, as long as we've got more than them. And that's the way every single one of us should be looking at it. As long as we win that cup on Sunday, who knows what's going to happen? We won't know how to celebrate. We won't know what to do. We'll probably will have to ring George. It'll be an Ask George special just after full time. What do you do, George, when we win a cup? Because none of us will know. You know, we'll probably all be too busy crying and pretending that someone's cutting onions near us and stuff like that. Or we'll just be gobsmacked. We really won't know. But I want to be feeling that on Sunday. I want to be in a position where I can say I've seen that team win silverware in my lifetime. And imagine, I was just 1 month old when they got to the 74 Cup final. So this is the 7th time. This is why I keep going back to Joe Linton. Not because Joe's here, but it really is. It's like the man who was laughed at, the man who at least 3 of us on this, probably 4, probably 5, everyone but Joe, to be fair, said as long as we had hole in our backside, he was not a professional footballer. And he showed us all. Now imagine now there'll be a statue of him, veins bulging, muscles bulging, and everything when he rose after scored. Imagine that statue. And these players have to go out there thinking, I can be that person. I'll be the one. We'll all be part of the team that wins it, but I can be the one that makes a difference. And I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's a sub. I don't care if it's maybe. All of them deserve it because they all have given the best for this team. And I think you'll see the best performance you'll see on Sunday will be from the fans, because I think the fans realise that they've got a job to do. So those who are lucky enough to be inside Wembley, it's not going to be a case of videos here, videos there, videos there. We have one goal, and that's to get behind that team from start to finish. And then it comes in the face of adversity. Let the press tell us how good Liverpool are. And the stats that Steve read out earlier, Liverpool have lost 1 league game in 28. Well, I'm glad we're not playing in the league then, isn't it? Because we would get beat. We're playing them in the cup. And as far as the last time I checked, they're in the same as many cups as we are. And that's 1. So it's a 1 versus 1 game. You're on mute, Mr. Hasty.
I was to say they've lost 2 cup matches from the last 5 games.
Yeah.
FA Cup and Champions League.
Right. They're in the same amount of cups as us, Steve, but that's 1. Yep. So we go there on Sunday, not when no one's really expecting us to win, and that's when we're at our best. And I said before, in the face of adversity, backs to the wall, that's what we're about. And it's our time now. So I don't care who scores as long as we win. And that's it. But I've given me obligatory 3-1, but if you had to push it for a score, I think we'll beat them 1-0.
Okay. Mitch, I don't really want to spoil your video, which is going to go out on Sunday. So I'm going to ask you something a bit different. Just the way that Eddie's prepared this time round. I thought the press conference today was great question by Ian Murter. His question was superb. He said, "You've chose to do the press conference today, which is like, you know, what you would have done for a Premier League game. Have you prepared differently for this cup final?" And they have, haven't they? They've definitely done that. And how much of an impact's that going to have, do you think?
Everything normalizes things.
Yep.
I've been banging on about mindset change. It needs to be normal that we're in a final. It needs to be normal that we're succeeding in every way we can. And it's funny how football can change so quickly. You know, if you'd asked me 14 days ago who was going to be going into this final with a spring in their step and with a bit of an upbeat, on the back of losing Hall, Gordon, Botman, and feeling a little sorry for ourselves, excuse me, I wouldn't have said it would have been us. Now, they're going into this game with their third or fourth choice right back, asking questions about performances in cups, and even down to the point where there's a couple of videos have emerged this week of Salah blanking Nunes after the penalty miss against PSG. When all the rest of the team went to him, Salah stood at the end of the row and seemed to blank him. And that's people looking at Liverpool saying, well, are they really all together? Are they really all that? Who would have thought that 10 days ago? And this is how quickly it can change and how quickly we can turn it around. But to have a more normal feel about this weekend, business as usual, gives us the opportunity to go and do the business. And I think that's the mindset change. That's the mindset change we need as a club. Is that you go there, you do the business, and you get your just reward. And if you need any example of that, stick Dan Burn up on the wall in the dressing room.
Yeah, 100%. Prediction from you, Mitch?
2-0 Newcastle.
2-0 Newcastle. Okay. George?
Well, for me, it's just go and enjoy it to the players. They've had the disappointment of the last time and they won't want that again. We've had the good news about Dan Burn that will spur them on. There's all of that, and I can't see anything other than a Newcastle victory. I'm sure they'll come out of it. And commentary about people are saying about the Stu and Neil and Steve having a laugh. I used to drive a big black vehicle to away matches with 5 people like that in the back. And I used to have to wear plugs and not look in the mirror because they never knew what was going on behind us. It was serious. It didn't any better at the home matches. I once had a conversation between the Neil and a couple of others, and I couldn't believe my ears because they were talking about this woman who looked in the camera, licked her lips, and her blouse fell open. They were talking about bloody Nigella Lawson on a cookery programme. I thought they'd been watching the sex channel. Never mind. So you can see the sort of trouble I used to get into. Yeah, they'll just enjoy it, lads. That's all I ask. Just go and enjoy it and you'll win. It's as straightforward as that. So, and I stick with me 2-0 win.
2-0 win. Okay. Joseph?
Yeah. We'll win. I can see Sandro Tonali opening the scoring. I can see somebody scoring for Liverpool, and then it's written in the stars that Joe Linton just pops up at the back post in the second half. And nothing would give me greater pleasure, as I said earlier. Why not? Why not this time? Why not us? You know, we're in a better place. Things feel better. And wouldn't it be great, you know, with what Sandro's been through? You know, imagine that. Imagine him scoring a goal. And whether it's Joe Linton, I agree with Stewie. I don't care what it is. I don't care whether, you know, John Ruddy comes on and sticks a penalty in. It doesn't matter. as long as we win. And I think it feels like, Anthony Gordon aside, because I do, you know, I know he's been a little bit hot and cold this season, but I would prefer him to play. But imagine being Harvey Barnes. Imagine being Harvey Barnes on Sunday thinking, you know, people are a bit unsure about me. People aren't sure whether I should be in this side, whether I'm good enough or not. Imagine him putting a performance in on Sunday and as Stewie said, you know, pulling the bloody crossbow out and you know, wow, what an opportunity. Jacob Murphy, you know, he gets berated. You know, he's had a decent season this year, fair enough. What an opportunity for him. You know, they're going to score in front of millions of people and lift the cup for Newcastle. So, yeah, whether I'm getting carried away or not, and I know sometimes I'm a bit negative, and then when I do get carried away, worryingly, when I do get carried away, we always get battered, don't we? So just be careful. But on this occasion, I'm up for it. You know, I can't wait. We are really fortunate that we're going to be there, you know, but whether you're watching at home, whether you're in the pub, whether you're going to Stack, whatever you're doing on Sunday, enjoy yourselves. Just absolutely enjoy yourselves. And you know, we'll all cry together. We'll all scream together. And, you know, we'll all end up at Newcastle watching the parade whenever that's going to be. So let's be positive. Let's enjoy the weekend and let's stuff them. 2-0.
2-0. Okay, Steve.
Hey, God. I'm just glad I'm not Eddie Howe, because from everything I've picked up this week from the press, there's only 3 players guaranteed a place in his team, and that's Shaw, Byrne, and Barnes. He's going to have to make decisions on Dubravka or Pope. He's got to choose either Trippier or Kraft. He's got to choose Livramento or Target. Does he go for Bruno or Longstaff? God, what a nightmare he's got thinking about this all week. Does he go Tonali or Miley? Does he pick J7 or does he go for Willock? Murphy or Osalu? You know, I mean, God, the bloke must be twisted inside. Does he go for Isak or Wilson up front on his own? Does he put 2 goalkeepers on the bench or 3? You know, I mean, I'm just flabbergasted at the pressure that Eddie's been on all week when he has to make that selection for the 11 who start. I'm just glad I'm not a football manager, because although having said that, if I was a football manager, I would have just gone to Dubravka, Trippier, Shaw, Byrne, Livramento, J7, Tonali, Bruno, Murphy, Isak and Barnes. That's your lineup, lads. The rest of you just get changed, sit on the bench, and I might bring you on, I might not. That's all he's got to do. I mean, what we're worried about, you know? Seriously, we are going to go there. We're going to enjoy ourselves. We're going to have a great time. The lads are going to put in a performance. We've already said that. We're going to write history. No numbers involved, lads. I've given up on numbers now. No 69s, no 70s. Okay. I'm going to go for. I think there's going to be goals in this. I really, genuinely do. I'm going to go for 3-2, a 3-2 win to Newcastle. It might go to extra time. It might not. If it does go to extra time, I think we'll have the edge on them after watching them in midweek. Somebody mentioned the Southampton game. I watched them last week against Southampton as well. I don't know why, but I watched that game, and I thought they were just as bad then. I didn't think they're pulling up trees. I just find that
55 minutes they were terrible, Steve.
Yeah, I'm just wondering. Are we have they been built up in the press this season to be the world beaters that it appears that 15 points clear is, or has everybody else just been crap? And I'm beginning on some of the other performances I've seen. I think everybody else has just been crap. I think that they're like Leicester. They managed to get a run. They managed to get out there up front, and everybody's sat there thinking they're gonna break, and they just haven't. And the reason they haven't is because everybody else is broke and just let it run. So we shouldn't go there thinking that this Liverpool team are absolutely world beaters. And I know people have said that PSG were fantastic the other night. I don't think that PSG team was as good as the PSG team we turned over 4-1, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not saying that flippantly. I genuinely think that they just managed to do a number on Liverpool because they'd sussed out that Liverpool were not as good as the rest of Britain and the British press have been making out. So let's go with the same mentality. Let's do what we can do. 3-2. If it goes to extra time, great. It's more time in the pub, worrying before we actually start celebrating.
2-1 in extra time. I'm going to go for. I think Newcastle will win it. I think it's going to be a really good game. Looking forward to it. Everyone who's going down, have a great time. Be safe, be sensible, and everybody who's at home, enjoy it. That's what these cup finals are all about. It's been a fantastic week this week on NUFC Matters. I will be back live Monday night with the fans forum. We'll have the Northeast Football Show back tomorrow morning. Me and Keith will be doing a little cup final look ahead to together with him, and he'll be talking about Sunderland's last couple of games. And Sunday I'll have something uploaded and ready to go. Probably those were the days. We'll probably go out on Sunday just so you've got your fix of NUFC Matters before we're back live on Monday. But there's only one way to play out, really, George, isn't there?
Yeah, get it out, George. Get it out, George.
Ready? How